basically, this is what I get woke up to on the first. Dad's dead. And I'm like,
Oh my
do
God.
what? I mean, that's the first thing I hear when I wake up. And, he wasn't in the best health. He had diabetes, neuropathy, several other things wrong with him. It is all connected through Agent Orange in Vietnam. And we always had two running jokes. He would sleep for 48 hours sometimes, and we poke our head in there, make sure he was still breathing. And one of them was either he's going to die in his sleep and we're going to have to go in there and poke him with a stick to find out, which he would always laugh at, or he was going to outlive us all because he was unhealthy. And I mean, that's kind of the, you
Right.
kind of would expect that out of somebody, and when I woke up to that, the whole morning up until getting to their house was just a blur. My mother told me that, he shot himself. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He shot himself. I wanted to think that this was a prank.
Right.
He was infamous for pranks. And I took what was normally a 20-minute drive, probably made it in 10, if maybe 8. And when I got there, it really sank in that he was gone because of all the cop cars there and everything else. And I go in, and they won't let me in. Me and this, it's a sheriff's officer. We get into this argument. Finally, I shoved him out of my way. I said, "You're gonna have to shoot me, tase me. I don't care. I'm going in. That's my dad." And about that time, my mom came out and she told me, hey, they asked me to come out. They've got to process the scene. And so, I kind of calmed down a little bit. My wife worked for the St. Johns County Sheriff's Department for 5 years. She's always the voice of reason. We've known each other 26 years. We dated in middle school and high school, and it was weird how we got back together. Social media, we never talked inappropriately, but my original intention was always to move back to St. Augustine to get back with her. And then I ended up joining the military in 2000. Our lives took us separate ways. We kept in touch. And she's, like I said, she's always been the voice of reason with me. If I'm up here, she can bring me down here, just like that.
Yeah, that's why Mike was with me.
So the other night when you did that, and I try to donate when I can and everything else, and I don't know if you remember seeing me in the chats quite a bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I just kind of shut down, and I'm having to be strong for my mom, be strong for my daughter. My daughter was born in 2004 on June 8th. I remember my dad standing out there. It was my dad's birthday, was June 8th as well. And he was sitting there outside the glass looking in, waiting to see which one. And he's like, that one. I said, no, they're about to bring her in. And when they wheeled her in, he said, I couldn't have asked for a better birthday gift. And I said, good, because guess what? I'll never be able to afford to get you anything else because,
yeah,
this one's going to get it all. And, he said, best birthday gift I could have ever asked for. And I said, good, this one's going to go forever. And, when this happened, June 1st, he was, a few days away from turning 73. 2 days away from my mom and dad's 45th wedding anniversary. My daughter's birthday, and then I went back up to Eastern Kentucky on Father's Day to go see him. He was a retired truck driver. He had taken medical retirement earlier. So I took him some trucks, and he was like a big kid. I mean, he really was. And about a year ago, when I was still living with him, he had made some off the wall comments that made me worry. So I went and I took his 38 revolver. And you know, having PTSD myself, I can kind of see these things when especially living with somebody. I took his 38 revolver. I didn't tell him. I took the bullets out and I put it back where it went. And I've actually got them in the other room. About a week prior, my niece was graduating. I'd bought my mother, well, for the house, he couldn't slide back anything. But a 22 long rifle, like a pistol, the Walther P22, he could slide that back fine, and so could my mother. And I said, okay, this is a good way to defend yourself. I mean, I even think about when he did this, how weak he was in his hands to do this with a revolver and with a hammer, you know, to turn around and actually, I imagine it took everything he had.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, you know, he could never open a can of, or a bottle of Sprite, much less.
Oh man.
He had to have been more determined that night than ever.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I told Mom to take the 22 to Florida with her. She did. And my dad asked me, he said, hey, I'm going to be here by myself. Will you load my revolver back up? And I didn't think anything of it. I should have, which makes me think that within this year period that I never told him, he probably went to do this once before and realized it wasn't loaded. So
yeah,
it's a Smith & Wesson. It's an old police issue. And he always wanted it to fall on an empty cylinder just in case, you know, God forbid one of the grandkids get a hold of it or something, at least.
Yeah.
Anything. And I said, well, do you want me to just put 5 in there? And he said, no, go ahead and put 6. So I said, okay. My mom took my truck down to Florida because my brother-in-law was putting his running boards on my truck and everything else. She came back on Memorial Day. Tuesday, I went down there, picked up my truck, and came home. And Dad called me every day since I moved out, at least 4 times a day. I could almost set my clock to it. And he asked me, there's this pair of boots that I had worked on, and he wanted something else done to them. He said, well, why didn't you pick up the boots? And I said, I didn't want you to have to wait 3 weeks to get them back. I'm waiting for a call back from the guy so I can bring them in, get them worked on, bring them right back to you. And he said, okay, well, I want to wear them to my VA appointment on the 8th, which was his birthday. And I said, well, you know, if he hasn't got them done by then, just, you know, Mom will help you get them on and off. It's no big deal. He had some zippers installed, and the guy forgot to put the leather straps back on the inside. I said, Mom will help you get them on and off. Just take, you know, when he calls me back and tells me that day to bring them in, I will. And he said, okay, makes sense. And he called me a couple other times. We didn't talk about anything. And in the process, my brother-in-law had sent back 4 tires that he took off, like his Ford, and wheels and tires. So I started looking at tires, and you know, you always think, like, if this was the last conversation I was going to have with this person, I wish it would have been something different, something more meaningful. He had called me about 6 p.m. and asked me what I was doing, told him I was looking at tires for these new rims, or new wheels, whatever you want to call them. And going through the different styles, different brands, warranty, whatever. And after about 30 minutes, he said, all right, well, I'm gonna go get something to eat and go to bed. I'll call you in the morning. And I said, okay. And this didn't stick out at me at the time. He said, tell Laura and Brody I love them. And I said, okay, I will. So he said, all right, love you, Bubba. He always called me Bubba. When I was little, he called me Squirt. And then when I got bigger, it became Bubba. I have no clue, but he said, I love you, Bubba. I said, I love you too, Dad. We hang up. My wife was actually up here in the office. I was downstairs, and I looked over at my dog, who's always beside me. And I said, hey, Brody, people said he loved you. And he just kind of wagged his tail. And, when my wife got done, I said, hey, Dad wanted me to tell you he loved you. And she said, I'll tell people I love him too. I said, I'll tell him tomorrow when he calls me. And, tomorrow never came.
Wow.
And he had never said anything like that before. And, now looking back, I'm thinking that's, he.
Yep. I can relate.
And we looked back after somebody's texting me or something. I want to vibrate on the desk. So I called my daughter when I got there and told her, and her boyfriend's mom was going to drive her up. She was really upset. She lives about an hour away. And she got tired of waiting on her, so she just drove herself. And she wanted to see him, and I insisted on seeing him. The detective was like, I don't know if you should. And I'm like, look, it doesn't matter. I don't care. That's my father. You're not going to stop me. He's like, I don't want that to be the last memory. And I told him, I said, it's not going to be the last memory of my father. I came up here Saturday night, had dinner with him. Actually, my wife, my daughter, we all did. Then I came up Sunday, helped him out with a few things, helped him, took the trash out for him, cleaned up some stuff around, because things for him to do, simple tasks were hard for him to do. Made sure that his medicine was laid out for the next couple of weeks, just in case mom didn't make it back in time, anything like that. And after that, he was standing at the storm door as I was leaving. He just kind of smiled and did like that. And that's my last memory of my dad. What I saw outside, which I'm glad I did. What I saw outside, had I not seen him, I would have thought a lot worse. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I loaded his pistol up with hollow points, and I know firsthand, what a lot of things look like. I spent 10 years in the infantry, 4.5 years in Iraq. I know firsthand what even shots from a distance look like.
Right.
So when I went out there, it wasn't anything that I was expecting. So I don't want to sound graphic. I don't want to sound very graphic.
That's okay.
He shot himself right here in the forehead. He was just kind of, so if I lean back, let's just pretend, and he did it in my chair. I don't know why. When we go out to smoke, he would always sit to the right. I would always go straight out. And he had the American flag to his back. But he was just kind of slouched over like this. And he had the foresight to take like a dish towel, place it across his stomach, and you know, from what the detective told me, the pistol was at his right foot. Um, he basically, if you were to take your haunted doll there,
Mm-hmm.
and about the size of, $50, maybe a, an old silver
Right.
dollar, do a hole right there, like knock it in the porcelain doll's head, but take the four pieces, glue them back together, but you can still tell that there's a crack, and just not be able to put it right back into place.
Right.
It was not gory. The puddle of
Wow.
blood was maybe, and I know it was instant. Um, the puddle of blood on the ground was, smaller than a football and not nearly as deep. I mean,
Yeah.
um, trying to think, the exit
Did it
wound,
go out the back
just a
or?
very, very small exit wound, about,
Okay.
the size. I can't think of something small enough to, maybe a piece of gravel, just right at the back of the crown. So, when that hollow point broke into pieces, most of it stayed in his head, but it's like one little sliver found its way out. And, I went out there and I talked to him, um, and you'll see in that note that I sent you, he wrote in there, um, the war's over, Charlie wins. Um, I never meant nothing. And I'm like, no, nobody wins here, Dad. Everybody loses.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if that's what you need to be at peace, then, you know,
Yeah.
I hope you found it. But
Yeah.
my biggest worry, and, with us doing this,
Mm-hmm.
my biggest worry is whatever problems he had in this realm, he took over to the other side, and nothing's better, except for the fact now that he's even more alone than what he was. You know, um,
Yeah.
that's my biggest.
I had the same fear. I know exactly what you're saying. I thought the same thing when Gary took his own life. And it was after talking to psychic mediums, spiritual friends that know a little bit about, stuff like that. Because they talk to the spirits on the other side. And I had went to a couple of different ones, and they said that Gary, that when someone commits suicide, they go through a life review, just like anybody else, and they are they are forced to see the damages they've left behind and how bad they've hurt everyone. And they have regrets, that they almost instantly have regrets. And I've heard that from like 5 different psychic mediums, that they almost instantly, once they realize what they've done, they see what they've done to the family, they have a lot of regret. And they're forced to see this because that's part of their punishment is, now look what you've done. Now look, look
Yeah,
what you've done. And they have to see that. But that they don't, they're not in hell. They don't go to hell, especially if there was a mental problem that caused them to do something like that. I mean, and which is in most cases, it's a mental problem. It's that there's still a chance for them to be in heaven.
yeah,
But they go through a lot of like counseling and things like that on the other side with their angels and their guides and I mean, none of us really know 100%. I'm sitting here talking like I know what I'm talking about, but I just know what I was told, and they
yeah,
all have said the same thing. It's like I'm trying to picture it, but it's like a school, where they got to go and they got to, this is where you went wrong in that life. This is what happened. This is what got you to where you were, and they go through this process of trying to look at their life, where did I screw up so bad where I went and did that, and tore up a lot of people's hearts.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what they've all said. So I hope that helps you, because that's what that helped me.
That really does, because I mean, if he's on the other side and there's somebody, I don't want him to have to sit here and suffer because of what we're going through, per se. Because even with these red flag laws and everything else, I would never, to me, he had the right. I know this might sound like the most backwards thing that anybody can ever say, but nothing I could have done would have saved him. Let's just say, I mean, I'm sure you can see I'm pro 2A.
Yeah.
It's, I don't believe, now there are certain instances where I believe, yeah, take them away, especially if you can prove somebody's talking about harming somebody else. But so, like I said, circle back here. I don't think, like I said, he had the right,
I know.
He carried this with him for 50 years.
Yeah.
50 years is a long time to feel like this. And I remember when I was probably 16, he had a wooden headboard, and in his wooden headboard on his side, there was a hole. Sorry. It's about that big, in his headboard, top to bottom. And it was this beautiful cherry headboard, and then you see all this, like white wood underneath it. And he would wake up with his fingers bleeding, where he was digging away from something, like fighting in his sleep.
Oh, wow.
And I remember asking him, like, what are you digging from? He said, I don't know. He would wake up like that. And just all these things leading up, that was, 23 years ago, and he's still,
Yeah.
So to me, taking that away wouldn't change anything. When I was going through some drawers in his bedroom, the VA had cut him off pain medication, but that's been some years back. And I found 14 bottles of unopened morphine 60s.
Oh, so, my God.
Yeah. So had they, you taken that out of the scenario, he could have done that. I mean,
and instead he chose to, maybe because he thought that would be quicker.
I think that was probably it. And maybe the fear of it not going through, somebody catching them somewhere in between.
Ben, sound like he pretty much had his mind made up. He was just done.
Yes.
And, and it's just sad, mental health problems, and it's just on an all-time high in this world today. I mean, whoa, shit, that scared me. Fucking alarm clock. But it's just sad, because so many people and young kids are committing suicide, and it just breaks my heart to hear these stories. And I know what it feels like to lose somebody to suicide, and it's horrible. Gary hung himself, and my husband Mike was the one that found him. And I was trying to get into the room when he come out of the room yelling, call 911, call 911. Oh my God, he was about to collapse in the hallway, and I knew something was really wrong. And he told me to call 911 several times. And I knew something was wrong, and I started screaming, and I'm rushing down the hall, and he wouldn't let me past him. He said, no, 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 you're not going in there. No. And he was pushing me back. He had never been that aggressive towards me ever. Like, get back. No, no, no. Well, while I was on the phone with 911, freaking out because I knew he was probably gone the way he was acting, I made the mistake of going around and looking in the window and saw him. And I collapsed. And I had a minor stroke that day, which I didn't even realize I had a stroke until, a couple days later, when everyone was noticing that I wasn't really making much sense. And, I was under a tremendous amount of stress. So they chalked it up to that at first, but it just got to the point where I wasn't making no sense. Things were coming out wrong. And it was just so noticeable to everyone that I went and got checked out, and they did some tests and stuff, and they said I had a TIA. And which, under the situation, they weren't surprised, and neither was I. But the image was so quick. I don't really have that image in my. I do, but it was so quick because it's like as soon as I seen him, I hit the ground. Like it was like I looked in the window and boom, I just went back. That was it. And I woke up to the paramedics treating me, had me laying there doing stuff with me because they were worried about me too, and it was, it's a day out. It was the worst day of my life. And Heather, she lived an hour away, so she had to drive an hour knowing that her brother was dead. And her brother were so close. So
sorry for that.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, if he'd have had a gun, I don't know if he would have chose that route. But what you were saying about the last time you saw your dad, I'll never forget the last time I saw Gary, and he was going around from room to room, peeking in on the kids. But there was just, looking back now, I feel like I should have noticed something about the way he was doing it. It was just, he was paying a little bit more attention and just kind of looking at him and, looking at him and saying goodnight and patting him on the back. And I'm like, I hadn't seen him do that, you know what I mean? Like he'll go in, hey, good night, guys. Good night, buddy. Have a good night. So, stuff like that, but not go in and just stand over him and look down at him and just, you know what I mean? So something was, and I saw him doing this. And it's like later that day after, we found out what he did, I kept reliving that in my head. Going, why didn't I see that? Why didn't I see this? Why didn't I see that he was acting different? He was saying goodbye to everyone is what he was. Yeah.
And that looking back, that's what my dad did too, because we went through his call log.
Yeah.
And this really pisses me off, for lack of better words. So my daughter was looking, he just had an old school flip phone, not tech savvy at all. And if he hit it very well. He'd always have somebody else Google it for you. He loved his Westerns. Find out how they made the horse fall. And I'm like, you got a Chromebook in there? Yeah, but you can just ask your phone. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So we notice a number because we're trying, basically the police set up a timeline from 8 p.m. when my mother went to bed. She woke up at 12:30 a.m., still saw his light on, but didn't think anything of it. He's been known weird hours. And 6:30 a.m., she let the dogs out back, which he went out back to do this out on the back porch.
Oh man.
And he's notoriously falling. So she noticed a spot on his head, let the dogs out. They went right past him, right down. And she thought he fell and hit his head. And then upon second glance, that's when she noticed the gun at his foot. And
oh my God.
she immediately locked the gate because there's a gate to keep the dogs up on the porch or, you know, down in the yard. So she closed the gate, came back in, and that's when she noticed the two notes, call 911. And, you know, at that point, there's nothing anybody can do for anybody.
I know.
So she called me, the detective that showed up, extremely nice guy, extremely professional. I mean, everybody was, but at 2:23 a.m., so after everybody's left, we're looking at who all he called. Well, 2:23 a.m., he had made a phone call to Austin and Bell Funeral Home. My mother is friends with, you know, the guy who runs the funeral home. She does alterations, and she's also friends with, you know, his wife, Beverly. Just if you're in the Middle Tennessee area, Austin and Bell Funeral Home. Yes, that is the Bell from the Bell Witch.
Is it really?
Same name.
Oh my gosh.
Tim, I don't believe Tim's related to him, but yeah, the Bell Witch Cave is like 20 minutes from my house.
Oh wow, I want to go there.
Hey, yeah, anytime. I've got spare bedrooms.
Okay.
You're always welcome. We can go and debunk everything they've got and then find the real truth, because
right, exactly.
You know,
yeah, we'd have to debunk because there's so much fakery out there.
Yeah, you know, the story is part of the fun. I will give it that, but there's
a
lot of things that are off. But they have an answering service in the middle of the night, and he called, and you know, the answering service answered, and they record these things. And I guess Tim wasn't going to tell my mom until she got down there, but we found out before she got down there that he called, and he said, you know, the answer said, "Tell Tim to come get the body." And the lady said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Tell Tim I said to come and get the body." And she said, "I'm sorry, he passed away." He said, "Tell Tim I said, come get my fucking body," and hung up.
Oh my God.
That was at 2:23.
Oh my God.
That was at 2:23. This is what pisses me off. The lady thinks it's a prank call. I don't know. This lady could be out of state. I don't know. It's just some answering service. I haven't had time to figure out a way to fix this yet. My neighbor was awake all night sick, or my neighbor, my parents' neighbor. I'm still used to calling my neighbors because, you know, I haven't lived here that long. She was up all night sick, and she heard the gunshot at 3:25. So there's an hour and, you know, 2 minutes that somebody could have came and intervened.
Yep, you're right.
You know, and I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, we got to have some way to get this fixed. I mean, it's not that hard anymore. You've got an area code and a phone number. You at least try and call them back.
Yeah.
If not, I mean, if somebody calls you on a cell phone, you get a caller ID, you get a name, but you can start backtracking this, especially the police. They can backtrack it.
Did you let the police know about this situation, and have they talked to them at all about that? Because that is messed up.
I did let Detective Schultz. I called him later on that morning. I think I've still got his card right here. I did call him later on that morning, and actually it's right here. And I told him what I had found out, and he went and got the recording. So
okay, yeah, gotcha.
So yeah, like I said, it's just like you said, it comes in waves, and I've had to be strong for my daughter. I've had to be strong for my wife. I've had to be strong for my mother, especially.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong when, you know, a man cries, anything like that. You know,
no, not at all. No.
It's not that macho bravado in me.
Just shows you have a
It's
heart
exactly.
and you have feelings, you know, we're
It
only
does.
human.
We are. And
Yep.
what really, so I'm looking for my bait now. I was over at my mom's last night, and it was just supposed to be kind of a quick trip in and out, just pick up a couple things, because I'm still bringing stuff from her room. And next thing you know, we're going back through dad's room and remember this. Do you remember that? And the last year, she wasn't mean to him. We really believe he was early onset dementia, and he would have his moments.
Yeah.
And mom is, I'm not saying blaming herself, but she wishes she would have had more patience with him. And believe me, he could drive a crazy man nuts.
Yeah.
There were times I'd look at my wife and be like, can we just move into the car, please? We'll find a house. Let's just move into the car. And,
Yeah.
but for her, I can't let her know just how much this hurts right now.
Yeah.
Because she's over there by herself.
Oh.
And, yeah, she's got neighbors, but I've noticed, our time together has gotten longer and longer. Like, I was only supposed to be there. I planned on 20 minutes, 25 minutes tops. I was over there for 3.5 hours last night.
Oh, wow.
And we talked about things that we would normally never talk about. And then, going through, dad's room, because I was looking for something in his gun safe. And, but it's just, I can't let her see, because to me, I have to be her rock right now, because my daughter's not, right there. She's talked about moving back in down there. Whether she will or not, that's another story.
Yeah.
My sister and her family's in St. Augustine, which I'd give my left arm to be back in. I hate Tennessee.
Do you
It's
really?
nice to visit. It's nice to visit, but it's so freaking hot for no reason.
That's what a lot of my Tennessee friends have been telling me, that it's extremely hot there. It's like almost worse than Florida.
It's a lot worse than Florida. Today was 95, and humidity, I think the humidity was like 70%. I mean, it's just so, you take a shower, you walk out, 5 minutes later, you feel like you need another shower.
It's kind of like that here. It's so damn hot here. I hardly ever go outside anymore unless I have to.
But you got the world's largest pool on each side of you. So
yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
When I lived
I love
it
in St. Augustine too. And you said you used to work there. Where did you work at there?
So I grew up down there. I lived in the St. Augustine shores. Now, my first paranormal experience actually happened. You remember, St. George Street, the walking street.
Right.
You know where the Dunes Cracker Cafe is?
Yeah.
Sits right on the corner of Treasury, I believe it is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're in the Dunes Cracker, well, if you're facing it, looking like you're looking towards the bayfront, just like half a block up, right on the right, there was this little restaurant called the Pizza Garden.
Okay.
It was there forever. And I don't know, last I had heard, they had moved. But I've been working since I was 11 years old. I'd always find jobs under the table, washing dishes, and I'd always serve as well. So waves were flat, I'd call in for extra hours. Well, they have those cement tables out front with the umbrellas that go up and everything else.
Right.
And you could buy pizza by the slice there. And it was an old just an old house, from
Right.
back when that was a livable area. Well, I got the key. The paint was chipping off and everything else, some of the tables, and Fran had asked me to go in early and paint some of the tables. I said, yeah, no problem. She gave me the key, gave me the alarm code, and I go in there and I disarm the alarm, go outside and I paint for about an hour, hour and a half. It's starting to get hot, so I go inside to get some water. Well, when I go in there, I hear children laughing and playing. And I thought, I mean, there's a back door as well. I thought Fran and her grandkids were there, but it was upstairs. So I went upstairs. There was nobody there. I was like,
Oh, wow.
weird. So I went back downstairs and I heard the laughing again. And, I'm just a dishwasher, I'm not even, but I hear the pots and pans, which are all hanging up, it's backing around the corner, and that's where the back door is. I heard some of them clanging together, and there's no windows open, there's no doors open. I'm just in there soaking up some AC. So I'm thinking maybe my mind's just playing tricks on me. That's where they were. They were back in the back of the kitchen.
Right.
So I go back there, the back door's locked, and I'm watching the pots and pans swing back and forth. And I was like,
oh my God.
Screw this, I'm going outside. So I filled my water back up, and I went outside, and I just waited till Mike got there, and Mike being her son, and I said, hey Mike, I need to talk. And he goes, yeah, what's up? I was like, so I came inside, and he goes, did you hear the kids? And I went, what do you know about these kids? And he kind of gave me, like, the Reader's Digest version,
right.
Back when that was a home, it was probably mid 1800s. Two kids had passed away. I don't remember what disease it was, but the mother and the father ended up, separating because of it. And, basically the kids are still there.
Wow.
They've been there since, and customers have seen them, which I didn't deal with the customers, so I didn't know this.
Right.
He's heard them. His mom's heard them. His wife had heard them. Everybody's heard these children.
Wow.
And after that, I started kind of, as my mother-in-law would call me, she said I was a street urchin, because I'd skate and, everything else. You'd always see me out there somewhere. And, this is late 90s, or mid, about 95, 96. The little walking tours. Stay back, just listen, like what's really going on here. And then eventually I got to the point where I started paying for them so I could really find out what was going on.
Right.
And that just piqued my curiosity level even more. And a few years later, Ghost Hunters or whatever came on TV, and but I was already running around taking pictures at night, and
yep, I've been doing that for years.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Yep.
You want answers, and
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Adam. Oh, Adam. Oh, I'm so sorry. I just got the goosebumps. I am so sorry to hear about that. Oh, everybody keep Adam in your prayers. Read what he just wrote. I'm so, so sorry. That's how I lost my son, Adam. God bless you. I'm so sorry.
we'll try to listen for his name and see if maybe he comes through. It's possible. I know, Adam. I'm sure you are. You keep on doing that. We're going to all pray for you. Everybody say a prayer for Adam tonight or right now or oh, his name is Gary, just like my son. My son's name is Gary. So Adam's father's name is Gary Wayne Barton. And he committed suicide just a couple weeks ago. I am so sorry. And nobody, unless you've been through it, can really understand. So if you don't understand, be happy that you don't, because that means you're not going through it. Because it's horrible. It never really completely leaves you or goes away. It's always there. But you just learn to live with it. Yep. Me and Heather both have had people talk trash about us because we keep mentioning Gary and Mike. We're going to continue to mention them as much as we want. And if people don't like it, then they don't need to watch. They don't need to listen. They just need to leave, go away, because that's our loved ones and we want to keep their memory alive. And if you've got a fucking problem with it, then fuck off. I mean, it's plain and simple, you know. But you know, it's our channels and we're going to do what we want to do on it. You know, everybody's entitled to do whatever the hell they want to do on their channel, within reason, of course, but you know what I mean. If you, Adam, much love. Yep. See all the love you're getting, Adam, and all the prayers.
I will pray. I will pray. And people.
How many of you are here right now? Adam in the chat just lost his father not long ago, and his father's name is Gary. Are you with us? If so, can you say your son's name? I'm there. Said I'm there, you know already. I'm pretty sure that's what that said, guys. Just watch in the back and listen. Is that message for Adam? Yes. Oh my God. Wow. But I'm happy. But I mean, it's me.
feel 80 and you're I'm driving. I'm driving.
Did you, Adam? Pretty amazing, isn't it? I think that was your dad. I really do. Now I want to give you false hope, but and I can't say 100%, but it certainly sounded like it was messing with you for a few years. It really did. And I'm going to go back and listen to that all day.
And with the way. And with the way.
And I looked away. Oh, Adam said that sounded like his dad's voice, too. Wow, Adam. Amazing. Can you say your name? Adam's father.
Scary. Scary.
Gary. Wow. Adam, your dad's definitely communicating with you. I have no doubt. Now, you said it's scary. That's my son's name also, but I specifically asked for your dad. And his name is Gary also.
Repeat.
Wow, Adam. That's so awesome. I'm really happy that he came through for you. I really am. Just to give you some peace and of mind and hearing from him just makes me feel really good. That's why I do this. Hoping that I can help at least one person.
So how long have you been watching my channel?
I've been watching for your channel for, oh gosh, it's been several years now.
Okay.
And I know it's gone back to, I believe you were in your old house because, so
Yeah.
it goes back, I know that far.
Okay.
Actually, I've seen a lot of things with Beth, I believe, in the old
Okay.
house as well.
Okay.
So it's been, I'd say, at least 3 years now,
Okay.
if not longer.
Okay. And how long have you been interested in the paranormal?
Oh gosh, ever since my first interaction when I was 12 years old.
That's
So
right. You did talk about that
that's
yesterday. That's right.
that's been 27 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 27 years now.
Okay.
Um,
So the night that I was live and your dad came through, how did that make you feel?
yeah, that was the first time since he passed away that I couldn't control my emotions inside. It was like a myriad, like just a flood of emotions that came through. Because I know his voice. His voice is very distinct, and I was in the middle of doing laundry. It's the middle of the night here, and I am a night owl. But it made me so happy to hear his voice again, and it made me start to question, uh, like what we talked about. Did he take this over with him? Is he free of the pain? Is he in a better place? Because that's my biggest fear is that, you know, so, he suffered from PTSD for 50 years from Vietnam. And I believe you got the note.
Yeah.
And, that's just one of two, but that one explains like the reason why. And I just want him to be free of it. If that was his way of getting rid of it, then I'm happy for him.
Right, right.
I just don't want him to have to take that with him to the other side and nothing be solved.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I understand that.
sorry.
No, that's understandable. It's okay. Cry if you need to. Um, and I feel in my heart that he's no longer suffering and that he is at peace. And I really think you probably should sit down with a psychic medium. I have several friends that are psychic mediums that I can refer you to that can really like sit down with you on a call like this.
It'd be even more validity because
Yes,
I hate, and I get it. Everybody's a skeptic until you're not.
right.
There's some people that are just so close-minded to it.
I
And
know.
the odd thing about June 1st was at the time my neighbor later told me that she heard the gunshot. I woke up at 3:25 because I always look at the clock when I wake up in the middle of the night.
Yep, I do too.
And I woke up and I had this really bad feeling.
Hmm.
And then I just chalked it up to, you know, I just had another nightmare.
Yeah.
Not the end of the world. And then three hours, 15 minutes later, I'm waking up to, the news. So
I know. Yeah. That's kind of what
and
happened to me. Same thing. I know exactly what you're saying.
it's very surreal. And then
Mhm.
the next night, um, so the back of my house faces a highway, but it's very slow, especially at nighttime. I woke up again about 3:20, 3:25, and you know, I went in the bathroom, I splashed water on my face, and the only thing that's in the bathroom is a window that, with the little tiles that are
Right.
can't see through.
Yeah.
On top of that, the trees tower way over my house, and I'm on the second floor. And as I'm walking back into the bedroom, I've kind of got my hand reached behind me to turn the light off. I see this glowing orb, like this big. It's probably 10 feet in front of me, over by where my bed is, where I would sleep. And I looked for a second, like, am I tripping? What kind of mushrooms were on that pizza last night? And it just kind of sat there for a second and it went away. And I went, and this is, coming from somebody who believes.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, I'm going to stand here for 10 minutes and, just stand here for a while. It was about 10 minutes I stood there. But I was like, I'm going to stand here and let, the same kind of vehicles go by. Because, it's not busy.
Right.
And I don't remember hearing a vehicle, but I'm just like, well, let some vehicles go by and see what happens. And I heard, 18 wheelers and several trucks go by because everybody around here likes to have no muffler, as you can hear right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Some redneck going by. Nothing wrong with rednecks. Just put a muffler on it.
Yeah.
But several vehicles went by and their lights didn't even, including an 18-wheeler, and their lights didn't even reach where I was at. I could hear them, but I did have zero reflection in the bathroom, zero reflection where it was.
Right.
And I know it was him.
Yeah.
I know it
I
was.
guarantee you it was. I guarantee you it was.
Then the next
doubt.
morning, I'm sorry, these
That's
not
okay.
only do blackout, but they also are noise absorbent.
Oh, that's good. I have the same kind around here. Yeah.
They so the next morning, my wife is letting my dog out and she said my dog's he will break down the boards on the privacy fence and go running the neighborhood. So we have to put him on a runner. So she's leaned over, putting him on the runner, when she hears right in her ear.
Oh,
And
wow.
I hadn't woke up to tell her about this yet or anything. And she said it sounded just like my dad. She turned around and said, "Okay, Peepaw, you scared the crap out of me." Now, you know, but she said, "Hi, Peepaw, you know, I hope you're okay." And
Yeah.
she had debated on telling me that or not. And you know, of course she chose to. And there's been several other things that have just happened. Like, I keep waking up around the same time every night. And one of the big things that I had a problem with was I didn't want to see his room ransacked, you know, because of the kids and grandkids. Because, you know, we say, when I go, you get this, when I go, you get that.
Right.
But I know everybody wants to hold something that's tangible that, you know, he held on to. But I asked my mom, I said, before we do go through this, you know, because we were on a race against time after the way he did it. And you can share that if you want to. I'm not,
Okay.
you know, I'm not against that. Uh, you know, I said, can we just wait until they make their summer trip back up here from St. Augustine? You know, so it's like he's still there.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. You know, so let them take something, but let's just not erase them completely out of
Right.
the house.
Right.
And
Yeah.
she agreed.
Yeah.
My mom agreed. So, you know, and so when I go over there, you know, his door's still closed. Mom won't open his door. But the morning of, when we were in there, and I was showing the police officer where he kept his holster, where he kept the gun and everything. The strangest thing happened. The cats were never allowed in this room. My mom has 2 cats. And Mickey got up on my dad's bed. He's call him Mickey Mouse Catcher, because he's black and white like Mickey Mouse.
Right.
And he got where my dad lays and started meowing and going crazy.
Oh.
And I was like, my daughter pointed it out, and I was like, that's probably him shooing him off, you know, saying, get the hell out of my room.
Yeah.
You know, get out of here, Mickey. Mickey's probably going, you can't make me, you know.
Right. Right.
But for everything that happened, that was the craziest thing that had ever happened in that house. And
Wow. Wow. So have you heard, you say you're waking up every night around the same time? That's usually a sign too that they're trying to communicate with you. And it's after 3 in the morning?
it's 3:20 to 3:25.
Yep. There you go. Yep. That's
And that's when the neighbor heard the gunshot as well.
Okay.
She said she heard, which it's not uncommon. You know, they live out in the country. People shoot coyotes all the time, because they'll come in and get it on their chickens, or
yeah,
you know, on their own dogs. So to hear a gunshot out in the country at 3:30 in the morning, you know, there's nothing strange about it. So that's why, and the neighbor lives across the street. My dad was known to be up all hours of the night. And you know, that's why nobody thought anything.
Yeah, I get that. It's not like it's a residential neighborhood where it's unusual to hear a gunshot.
Yeah, like
out in the country, it's you know, like if I heard a gunshot in my neighborhood, it'd be kind of, even though I'm kind of in it's a subdivision, but it's houses are far apart, you know, so I'm kind of in a rural area, but not so rural anymore. It's building up, you know, developing quite a bit, and it would be very unusual to hear a gunshot here.
Yeah, it'd be like me.
We have at least 3 or 4 police officers that live around here too, so. But Oh, that's okay.
holding it back, and it's like,
I know. I
it's
know.
it might get ugly. If it does, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's totally understandable. I mean, it's so fresh. I mean, it's only a couple weeks, that but after seeing you in the stream that night and seeing and hearing your father coming through and seeing your reactions just in text, I was like, I really need to talk to this guy. I just felt like I need to talk to him because I can relate to how he feels, losing somebody to suicide. And I mean, losing somebody period is hard. Somebody close, a parent or a child, a sibling. I haven't lost a sibling yet, but just losing a parent and or a child is very difficult. And so I can relate, and I just felt like I needed to talk to you, and that's why I wanted to do this, because and you touched a lot of people in the audience that night. They were so touched by it. They're still reaching out to me,
I
saying, I hope that you're going to be, get with this guy. I said, yes, I'm already on it. I'm already on it. And we're going to do it because a lot of people were very touched just seeing, that how it was affecting you, hearing your father coming through. It was amazing. It's
yeah,
amazing. He wanted you to know. And when he said Gary, and that's your father's name, Gary, like my son,
Gary. Yes.
I still can't believe. Wait till you hear it. Wait till you hear it. Well, you've already heard it back because you've listened. But once I upload it and in its high definition and I enhance it, you're really going to hear it. He says Gary when I ask,
Yeah.
what is your name?
And then I heard Adam several times.
Yep, I
Like
did too. Yep.
it was unreal. Um, Now that thought of firstborn, first boy,
Yeah, I got to listen
wonder if
back to that.
maybe he was talking because, like I said, he didn't acknowledge my brother, my half brother,
Oh,
and
that's right.
he was even left out of the obituary. That was his wishes.
Yeah.
Um, he and I have made amends on our personal level.
Hmm.
Um, I told him that night before the funeral, we ended up at my aunt's house at the same time, and we avoided each other the entire night. And when he went to leave, somebody came to tell me he was leaving, so I was going to go back around towards the basement to where in the garage, so we didn't cross paths. He ended up walking 10 feet in front of me, and he had his hands in his pockets. Now he's 52. He had his head down, and he said, "Bye, Adam. I'm sorry." And I was just like, "Get over here." Because I mean, I'm sure my aunt had told him there's going to be blood.
Hmm.
Uh, and he came over there with his hands in his pockets, tucked, head down. I said, and I had my fist balled up and squared off and was ready to swing. I said, "This ends tonight." I was like, "What are you sorry for? Are you sorry for, just because dad died, or are you sorry for being such a shitty brother to me my entire life?" That's what my problem was with
Right,
the way
right.
you treated me. And I still have a problem with the way you treated dad.
Hmm.
Um, which there's two sides to every story. And this is why dad said, let him fight his own battles. But I know what dad did to try and reach out and, continuously send Christmas cards and
Yep.
checks and birthday cards and everything else, and to never get a thank you or a phone call or anything. So
Wow.
there might be two sides to every story, but I really don't care about your side of the story at this
Right.
point. I was there. I lived this. I watched this.
Yeah.
And he looked up and he had the biggest tears in his eyes. And it's like he was ready to take, whatever beating I was fixing to give him.
Hmm.
That's the country in it coming out. So
That's
my
okay.
wife
Yeah.
calls it surfer slang because, being from Florida, or
Yeah.
surfer redneck slang.
Yeah. Your
But
brother's the Charlie then. His name is Charlie.
his name's
Oh,
Christopher.
Chris. Who was
Yes.
Charlie that he wrote about in that letter? Charlie.
Charlie, Vietnamese Charlie. They call him. You ever watch Forrest Gump?
Yes.
He's like, "We're always looking for this man named Charlie."
Oh, yes. Okay.
That's what they
I
call the
got you.
VC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
They called him Charlie.
Mm.
Or gooks, which gook in the dictionary means foreigner. And then you go back and really think about it.
Okay, yeah.
We were the gooks. We were the ones in their land, not vice versa. And I don't mean that in a, you know, in a racist, any kind of negative light. It's
Right.
just, you know, that was what they called the Vietnamese. They called him Charlie. They'd call him gook, because they were foreigners. But
Yeah.
in all actuality, we were the gooks in their land. Imagine,
Right.
if something were to happen to my daughter, I would never get over that.
Yeah, you don't ever get over losing a child. And what keeps me going and what keeps me my sanity is knowing that he's still around me. He's proven it. I hear him on my spirit box all the time. There was a time when I was filming at a very haunted place, and I'll never forget him coming through that box and saying, "That's my mom. Get away from my mom. I'll hurt you." And I heard it as clear as day. When I listened back, I'm like, oh my God, that is what I heard. Get away. And he was yelling, "That's my mom. Get away from my mom. I'll hurt you. You know, back off." You know, you'd hear back off several times. And I've heard that even when I was in the Brushy Mountain prison on the EVP, it said, "Back off. That's my mom." And I've heard it, and other people have heard it too. That's why he's become so popular in the with the paranormal field. You know, everybody's talking about Gary, the strong spirit, telling people, "You better back off my mom." And you know, it's like he's letting me know all the time that he's around. If Gary, if you're here right now, light this meter up. If you hear me talking. Also, can you bring
Gary Barton.
Yep, Gary Barton here as well. I have his son Adam here. I know I have it up on Beth's head, but I didn't know where else to set it where the camera would pick it up.
Your mom's amazing, Gary.
Oh, thank you. Did you hear that, Gary? Come on. I'll give y'all a couple minutes. Come light it up. Now there's, as you see, it's been sitting there for a while. It ain't lighting up. So if it lights up, there's, you know, it's them.
Yeah. And, you know, I've always wondered, people always go lights out. And if you ever go to Brushy Mountain again, let me know, because I have a friend who was not only locked up there, he's older now, but he was also right next door to James Earl Ray and very personal friends with him.
Oh.
And so he has this leather bound Bible. When I got out of the military, I tried working at the prison, and I couldn't. I ended up getting getting assigned to special needs prison, which is where they send a lot of the sex offenders, and I couldn't do it. I was like, I can't be, because they tell their stories like it's kids trading baseball cards. I'm like, nope, I quit. But the barber there got his name is David Wolfenbarger. He was the barber there. He wasn't a sex offender or anything like that, but throughout, his prison term, he got his barber's license and everything else. So every prison needs a barber. He would actually cut my hair for free when he would come through the pod. I mean, of course it's free, but like I'd try and give him some cigarettes or whatever. And he was like, "Oh, no, I got you. Don't worry about it." And he got out of all the things, and he was like the perfect rehabilitated prisoner. He went in when he was 18 for petty theft and caught a murder charge 6 months in, because it was him or another guy, and he got word of it, so he attacked first, and then he got life thrown onto it, and then he'd work his way down to minimum. And this was back in the probably 60s. And when you were minimum, you could go out on the weekend and do your banking and this and that and come back.
Right.
Well, he thought, well, screw this, I'm just going back for life. So he would not go back. So he got like 3 more escape charges. And then, because he'd work his way back down to minimum, escape again. And then, because I mean, at that point, your life's over, you got life.
Yeah.
but he got paroled. And he lived in Portland. I didn't even remember him. He moved to Portland where I lived, and I saw a barber shop, and I was like, good, hey, we need a good one around here. I went in there, and he's cutting my hair, and he goes, how you doing, Officer Barton? And the first thing I did was like reach for my pistol, because I don't know who this inmate was.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, do I know you? And he's like, like I had my hand kind of like right underneath my shirt where I was
Right.
ready to pull it, because they say an inmate never forgets a face, and that's true.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen him in 10 years at this point.
Right.
And well, probably 8. But either way, he said, you don't remember me? And I said, no. And he said, I used to cut your hair over at D-Berry. And I was like, oh, okay. Okay, like crisis averted here. And we became really good friends. And he was telling me, but he has this leather-bound Bible, because a lot of prisoners do leather work.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was in the tombs, the tombs out there in Brush Mountain, he spent most of his time there. The warden did not like him whatsoever. But when he made it back out to Gen Pop, the cell over to next to him was James Earl Ray, and James Earl Ray made him this leather covered Bible, and on the inside of it's inscribed, to my dearest friend David, may you find guidance in this book. Love your friends, love your friend James E. Ray. And I asked him one day, why do you always carry that Bible with you? And he said, a great friend of mine. And he told me about it, and I'm like, okay, dude, I gotta know, did he do it? And because even Martin Luther King's children don't believe
I know.
he did it.
I know
And
it. I read about that.
he said, this is what happened. There was a bounty for $50,000 for anybody who would kill him. He took whoever set this up. He was going there to do it. $50,000 would set your family up for a long time.
Yeah.
That's why he admitted to it. He checked in to the hotel, was walking to his room when the shot was fired.
Oh, wow.
Gets to his room, opens the door, the same rifle that he was carrying and one shell was laying right there. And he said he knew right then and there he was set up. But he thought, if I take the fall, my family will still get the money. And, he admitted it. And when they didn't get the money, that's when he recanted on his story. And,
wow.
During that time, he was hard up for money. So, and, $50,000 back then, that would buy you, that'd be probably equivalent of, what would you think? Probably $750,000, $1 million today.
Yeah.
That was a lot of money. And they let an innocent man die in prison.
Wow. I had a feeling that he didn't do it too. And I heard about that story, not in detail like you just told it, but I have heard that even his kids don't believe that he did it.
Yeah.
And when I was in the cell, in James Earl Ray's cell, doing a spirit box session and everything, I felt the whole bed underneath my ass vibrating. You could I could feel it all of a sudden, and there was nothing around to make that happen. There was no trucks going by, nothing like that. But it just all of a sudden started vibrating, and I could feel it. And when I asked him when the spirit box session, I asked him, "Do you regret what you did?" He said, "I didn't do it."
I've been to Bobby Mackey's.
Have you?
Yes, it's nothing like what they make it out to be.
Okay, that's good to hear.
I've been to Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. I've been to Hell's Bar Dam. I'm trying to think everywhere I've been. I've been to so many places, and now I'm not saying they're not paranormally active. I'll tell you what, OSPH, first off, you're surrounded by like the projects, and we went through there from bottom to top, and we cleared that place military style.
Right.
That was with the last team I was on.
Mm-hmm.
And that place is nuts, OSPH. And now somebody's came in and bought it and turned it into a paranormal research center.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get scared easy. We went to the third floor and we recreated basically somebody operating on me, the team operating me, flatlined, called it, covered me with a sheet. They went downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
I laid up there underneath that sheet, and I've got a Tascam DR40, with 2 dynamic mics, and then I have 2 Shure SM58 mics hooked up to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 2 condenser mics. So I'm getting a very broad spectrum. You said, like I was looking at your GX7 last night. I was like, oh, that's awesome, because I wouldn't have to carry around so much stuff. And you said you could hear a mouse fart on yours. Well,
Oh
like
yeah, this camera is really awesome, and it's just
G7X. Yeah,
yeah, G7X. Yep.
I was looking at it last night. Like the Mark III, they have a bundle on Amazon for $850. I was like, that's awesome.
That
3
is
extra
awesome.
batteries and.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But like with the Tascam, you can listen in live. So when you're doing like EVP sessions, you can hear what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But or you can go back and listen for playback, But we always said you could hear a gnat fart on that thing because it
Mm-hmm.
hears so much. And
Yeah.
I can send you the basically the diagram of how we have it set up and everything in a later
Okay.
date. And
Okay.
it's not intellectual property of anybody. I mean, that's what it's for. It's for recording live music.
Right.
Just happens to be the team that I was on. They used it, and I thought, well, 2's better than 1. So,
Right. Yeah. Yep.
but like,
Wow.
what kills me, my Mel meter crapped out on me. And it worked great for forever. And then they wouldn't use stuff like ITC,
Mm-hmm.
RIM pods, SLS. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I get it. Yeah, there can be false mapping.
Mm-hmm.
I can make the vacuum cleaner dance. Yeah, I get it. It's trying to map somebody.
Right.
But when there's nothing there,
Right. When there's nothing there, that's when you know you got something.
yeah. And
But
I'm
when
like,
I watch a lot of these people's videos and I see where they're mapping something, but I'm like, okay, there's something right there on that's what it's mapping. But
yeah,
when you see nothing there, that's convincing to me. That's the only thing that's going to convince me,
yeah.
you know?
Like if there's a row of tombstones, look through the row.
Right,
Don't
right,
face it towards the tombstones.
right.
Have the tombstones running this way and
Yeah.
see if anybody walks through or walks
Yep.
up, or that's when you go, okay,
Yes.
can we recreate this? Can we debunk this?
Yeah.
And if not, then you know what? You got something very interesting.
Yep. Yep.
And that's the biggest problem in the paranormal community is people think that they can just. I remember there were like 2 books on it when I started looking into it.
Mm-hmm. I know there wasn't really much when I started doing it either. I mean, when I got on YouTube and started researching paranormal channels, there was hardly any. There really wasn't.